I never thought a simple weekend could change everything. She called me late Friday night, her voice cheerful but a little nervous, and said, "It's just a weekend trip with friends. Nothing to worry about." I smiled, trying to sound casual, but deep down, something about the way she said it made my stomach twist. My girlfriend, Lena, had been planning these little trips for months, and I'd always trusted her. But that tiny hesitation in her voice, I couldn't shake it. I remember pacing around my apartment, glancing at my phone every few seconds, wondering if I was overthinking things. Lena was supposed to leave Saturday morning, and she promised she'd send me photos from the trip. I tried to picture it in my head, her laughing with friends at a cabin by the lake, s'mores by a campfire, maybe a little hiking. That's what she said it was, a weekend with friends. But that uneasy feeling kept creeping back. I wanted to tell myself I was being paranoid. Lena had always been honest with me, or at least, I thought she had. We'd been together for over a year, and sure, we'd had our share of fights, but nothing I couldn't handle. Still, there was something different in the way she'd said, "Nothing to worry about." Almost like she was hiding something without meaning to. I tried calling it overthinking. I told myself, "Relax, it's just a weekend." Saturday morning came, and she left with her friends, waving goodbye with that familiar smile that always made me feel safe, even when my gut screamed otherwise. I spent the day pretending to focus on work, checking my phone obsessively for any messages. Around noon, a notification popped up, a photo from Lena. My heart skipped. It was just a casual group shot, her and her friends, smiling at the camera, arms around each other. But something about it, something didn't sit right. I couldn't put my finger on it. Was it the way she was standing? The background? Or maybe just the fact that my stomach refused to calm down? I tried shrugging it off, telling myself, "It's normal, you're just stressed." But that nagging feeling kept clawing at me. By the time I went to bed that night, I was restless. I couldn't stop thinking about that photo, about the little hesitation in her voice, about all the just a weekend reassurances. Something felt off, and I didn't know why. Then, Sunday morning came, and Lena started sending more photos. At first, they seemed innocent, just snapshots of laughter and sunsets. But then I saw one that made my chest tighten so badly I almost dropped my phone. It was a picture she didn't even notice she'd sent, and in it was someone, or something, I wasn't supposed to see. And that's when I realized this weekend trip wasn't as simple as she had made it sound. Before that weekend, Lena and I had built what I thought was a strong relationship. We'd met at a small cafe downtown, the kind of place that smelled like coffee and old books, and somehow clicked instantly. She had this laugh that made people around her feel lighter, and I'll admit, I was completely drawn to it. Over time, we became inseparable, or at least, I believed we were. We'd had our share of ups and downs. Arguments over small things, silly misunderstandings about plans or texts, moments when I'd felt insecure, but nothing I couldn't handle. Lena had always been honest, or so I thought. She had a way of saying things that made even uncomfortable truths feel gentle. That's why this weekend trip with friends should have felt normal. Lena's friends were fun, but a little unpredictable. I'd met them a few times, and they had this energy that was hard to keep up with. They'd texted her in group chats about trips, jokes, and late-night plans. I'd never minded her spending time with them. It's normal, right? Friends are important. But something about this trip felt different. Maybe it was the way she'd been checking her phone a lot more than usual, or how she'd hesitated when I asked if I could see the itinerary. She said it was all casual, just a cabin in the woods, some hiking trails, and campfires. I nodded, tried to sound okay. In the week leading up to her leaving, there were tiny things I noticed but didn't pay much attention to. She seemed distracted at times, laughing at messages I couldn't see. She changed plans last minute for reasons that seemed trivial but felt off. And the night before she left, she insisted on packing extra clothes just in case. Normally, I'd have shrugged it off, but that tiny pause in her voice, the way she avoided eye contact for a moment, it was enough to plant a seed of doubt. I went over it in my head constantly. Was I imagining things? Was it my own paranoia creeping in? I'd never been this tense before a weekend trip she'd gone on. But there was a small, nagging feeling I couldn't ignore, a whisper that something wasn't right. And then there was me. I wanted to trust her, to believe her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the weekend held more than she was letting on. I replayed every conversation, every laugh, every fleeting glance, trying to find a clue. Everything seemed normal, but that photo she sent Sunday morning was different. It wasn't just a picture. It was a message I wasn't supposed to see, a tiny detail in the background that made me freeze. My mind raced, trying to convince me it was nothing, but the seed of doubt had already taken root. That just a weekend promise suddenly felt fragile, like a crack in something I thought unbreakable. I stared at my phone, heart pounding, wondering, had I been blind all this time? Or was there really something Lena hadn't told me? And then came the next photo, one that would make everything I thought I knew about her, about us, feel like it was hanging by a thread. The next photo hit me like a punch. Lena had sent a picture of the cabin's living room, all cozy and sunlit, but in the corner of the frame, there was someone I didn't recognize. At first, I tried to convince myself it was a friend of hers I hadn't met yet. But the closer I looked, the more my stomach twisted. This person was too familiar, someone who didn't belong in her just friend's story. I stared at that photo for what felt like forever, scrolling back through all the messages she'd sent during the trip. Her texts were cheerful, almost carefree, but now they felt deliberate. I started questioning everything. Her tone, her jokes, even the emojis she'd used. Were they masking something? My mind went through scenarios, each one worse than the last. Was she hiding something serious? Was it just harmless, and I was overreacting? The more I tried to calm myself, the more my imagination ran wild. I remembered small things she'd said before the trip. Don't worry, I'll check in. It's just a short getaway. Nothing seemed suspicious at the time, but now every word felt loaded, like a puzzle I couldn't solve. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. The messages I sent went unread for hours, and each tick on my phone made my anxiety spike. I wanted to trust her, but my gut was screaming the opposite. I paced my apartment, replaying the weekend in my mind. Had I missed something in our conversations? Something in her expressions? By evening, the photo nagged at me so much that I couldn't focus on anything else. I looked at it again, zooming in, trying to recognize that stranger, trying to make sense of why they were there. And then it hit me, something in the way Lena was positioned, the angle of the shot, and the timing. It wasn't just a random photo. She hadn't meant for me to see this. A sudden cold realization settled over me. This weekend wasn't what she had said it was. And whatever was happening, it wasn't something she wanted me to know, at least, not yet. I stared at my phone, heart hammering, mind racing, and felt that first sharp twist of fear. If the photos were this revealing, what else could she be hiding? Then my phone buzzed again. A new photo. From Lena. And this one made my blood run cold. The new photo made my hands shake. Lena was smiling as usual, holding a drink in her hand. But behind her, almost out of focus, was the unmistakable figure of the person from the previous photo. This time, though, they were closer. Too close. My chest tightened, and I felt my heart drop into my stomach. My mind refused to stay calm. Every laugh, every carefree message she had sent during the trip now felt like a lie wrapped in charm. I tried to text her casually. Hey, looks fun. Who's that in the background? But the typing bubble disappeared before she could answer. Then, nothing. Hours passed. I stared at my phone, every notification making me jump, every silence making my imagination spiral. I went over everything again. The little hesitations in her voice before she left, the extra clothes, the fleeting glances when she thought I wasn't looking. At first, I had dismissed them. Now, they felt like breadcrumbs leading to something I wasn't ready to face. I started thinking about all the subtle changes over the past few weeks. The longer phone calls she didn't want me to hear, the sudden late-night texts, the strange giggles when I walked into the room. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just friends being friends. Maybe I was overthinking. But deep down, I knew I wasn't imagining this. Something was happening, something she hadn't told me, and these photos were a window into it. By Sunday night, I was pacing my apartment like a caged animal, unable to focus on anything. I replayed the last time I saw her, the way she kissed me goodbye, the way she looked over her shoulder as if she was carrying a secret. I felt like I'd been blind all this time, walking through our relationship with rose-colored glasses while something had been brewing right under my nose. Then, as if on cue, another message appeared. Lena had sent a video this time. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen, terrified of what I might see. My hand was trembling. I told myself to stay calm, to just watch it and understand, but fear rooted me in place. My heart was pounding so loudly I thought she'd hear it through the phone. The video opened. At first, it seemed innocent, her and her friends laughing around the cabin, a warm sunset spilling across the room. Then, my eyes caught movement in the corner. A figure stepped closer to Lena, whispering something that made her laugh in a way I had never heard before. And the way she looked at them, my stomach sank. That look wasn't just friendly. It was something else. Something I wasn't supposed to see. I froze. My mind screamed at me to call her, to confront her, to demand an explanation. But I didn't. My fingers were numb. I watched, heart racing, unable to tear my eyes away. And that's when I noticed it, a tiny detail in the background that made my blood run cold. Something so obvious, so damning, that I realized the truth was far worse than I'd imagined. I wanted to close the video, to forget what I saw, but curiosity held me captive. Because whatever was happening on that weekend was bigger than anything I could have prepared for. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The figure in the video wasn't just a random friend, or someone harmless. It was someone from my past, someone I never expected to cross paths with again. My mind raced, memories colliding with reality. Why were they there? And why was Lena acting so familiar, so comfortable around them? I rewound the video, frame by frame. Then I saw it. A secret exchange, a small gesture between Lena and this person that made my chest tighten in ways I couldn't explain. It wasn't just closeness, it was something deliberate, something hidden from me all along. Suddenly, all the photos, the messages, the little lies I had brushed off, they weren't random. They were part of a bigger story, one I hadn't even imagined. And then the thought hit me, freezing me to the core. If this was happening right under my nose, what else had she kept from me? Before I could process it, a new notification popped up. Lena had sent something else, a message that would change everything I thought I knew about her, about us, and force me to face a truth I wasn't ready for. The message opened like a knife twisting in my chest. Lena's words were short, casual, almost teasing. I didn't expect you to find out this way. Guess there's no hiding it anymore. My hands shook as I scrolled down. Attached were more photos, closer, clearer, undeniable. Lena wasn't just spending time with a friend. She had been meeting someone secretly, someone she clearly had history with, someone I had tried to forget existed in my own past. My mind raced, a whirlwind of anger, betrayal, confusion. I remembered every moment I had trusted her, every smile, every laugh that now felt like it had been masking a lie. I felt my chest tighten and my throat go dry. How could she do this? Why wouldn't she tell me? I needed answers. I needed her here, explaining herself. I grabbed my keys and drove, adrenaline pushing me forward. When I arrived at the cabin, my stomach dropped. The door was slightly open. Inside, I found Lena and the person from the photos, sitting on the porch, laughter frozen in mid-motion as they turned to me. The confrontation was immediate, raw, words spilling out like a storm. Lena tried to explain, her voice trembling, but the truth was messy, complicated, human. She confessed that it wasn't what it seemed, that this person had a history with her she couldn't just erase, and that she had tried to shield me from it. She admitted her mistake, hiding it, but also how much she cared about us. My emotions crashed together, hurt, love, confusion, anger. I wanted to yell, to walk away, to collapse all at once. Then, just as I thought I understood, Lena pulled out something that made my heart stop. A small, folded note. Not meant for me. A message from the person she had been meeting. It wasn't a love note. It was a warning. Someone had been following her, tracking the trip, watching every photo, every move. Suddenly, the weekend wasn't just about secrets between us. It was about danger I hadn't even imagined. And in that moment, standing on that porch, I realized the truth was far bigger, far darker, and far more complicated than any of us had thought. The hours that followed felt like a blur. Lena and I sat on the porch long after the sun had set, talking in whispers that barely touched the edges of our fears. She explained everything, the history with the person from the photos, why she hadn't told me sooner, and the strange, threatening message that had followed her. I listened, heart heavy, trying to separate my anger from my love, my confusion from the truth. It was messy, complicated, human. But as the night deepened, I realized something important. Secrets could fracture trust, yes, but honesty, even late honesty, could start to mend it. Lena had made mistakes. She had hidden things out of fear, not malice. And I had my own part to play in how we moved forward. By the time the moon hung high in the sky, we had decided on a plan. We would confront the danger together, set boundaries, and rebuild trust piece by piece. It wouldn't be easy. I knew that. But there was a strange relief in having a clear path, a chance to face the unknown with someone who truly cared about me. As we drove back to the city the next day, the cabin disappearing behind us, I glanced at Lena. Her hand found mine. A small, tentative gesture, but enough. In that moment, I understood something about love. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't simple. It was fragile, messy, sometimes terrifying, but it was worth fighting for. Later, when I looked at the photos again, they didn't feel like proof of betrayal anymore. They were reminders of our humanity, our mistakes, and our capacity to forgive. I knew the story wasn't over. Life rarely wrapped neatly in a bow. But the weekend, the fear, the lies, the revelations, they had changed us. Made us more honest, more aware, more connected. And even though a shadow of doubt lingered, I realized it was okay. Because trust wasn't about never having questions. It was about choosing to face them together. Choosing to communicate, to hold on when things felt impossible, to keep showing up for each other. As we pulled into the city streets, I felt a cautious hope, a sense that whatever came next, we would meet it together. And in the back of my mind, a small, lingering question remained, about what might still be hidden, about the world outside our little bubble, but it no longer filled me with panic. It was just life, unpredictable and complicated, and somehow, that made it beautiful. That weekend had started as just a trip with friends. And yet, in its chaos and its revelations, it became something far greater, a test of trust, love, and resilience. And somehow, against the odds, we had passed, together,